ready.
Yes, you get ready.
If you want the latest news in the streets, join us and tune in for the tea. Breaking news with integrity. So tell your friends and your family. It's the Lovelyti TV show, bringing you good tea and good vibes. It's the Lovelyti TV show. Be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Hey tea sippers, I hope you guys are doing good today. Make sure you guys have your teacups ready because this tea is what? Piping hot. So if you guys do not know, this past weekend was the BAFTA Awards in the UK and a lot went on. So we're going to go ahead and break it all down.
Delroy and I are delighted to be presenting the first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making.
We're here to celebrate.
So this past Sunday, February 22nd, the 79th annual BAFTA Film Awards were held at the Royal Festival Hall in London. For those who don't know, the BAFTAs are basically the British Oscars. Big deal, global stage. The whole world is watching. And two of the most popular black actors in America were on stage that night. Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo, the stars of Sinners, they walk out on that stage to present the award for Best Special Visual Effects. These are two celebrated Oscar-nominated black actors at the top of their game, standing up there with dignity, with class, representing. And then what ends up happening is that somebody in the audience screams the N-word, and you can see Delroy Lindo and Michael B. Jordan pause. You can see the look on Michael B. Jordan's face. They're both shocked. But like professionals, they continue on in spite of the disrespect that was just shown their way. Like the absolute professionals they are, they composed themselves and kept it moving, did what they had to do. And that right there breaks my heart because they should never have had to do that. The man who shouted the slur is John Davidson. He's a Tourette syndrome advocate from Scotland. He's had Tourette's since he was 12 years old, and his entire life story, his struggle, his journey, his advocacy work inspired the BAFTA-nominated film called I Swear. That film was actually at the ceremony because it was nominated. John Davidson was there as an executive producer and as a guest of honor, and the actor who plays him in the film, Robert Aramayo, actually went on to win Best Actor that night.
And the BAFTA goes to Robert Aramayo from I Swear.
Now, Tourette syndrome is a real neurological condition. It causes people to make involuntary tics, sounds, movements, outbursts that they cannot control. A specific form of it, called coprolalia, causes people to involuntarily say offensive or taboo words. John Davidson has spoken about this publicly for decades. He was on a BBC documentary about it back in 1989. He's literally spent his life educating people about this condition. And he actually gave a statement after the ceremony saying he was, and I quote, deeply mortified, and that he chose to leave the auditorium early because he was aware his tics were causing distress to others. Now, let's keep it real. John Davidson did not wake up that morning and decide to call Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo the N-word. That's not what exactly happened. He does have Tourette syndrome. And when you understand what Tourette syndrome actually is, you understand that sometimes the brain does misfire. Words can come out that a person does not consciously choose. Two things can be true at the same time. But with that being said, people's feelings were hurt. And those were disgusting words that came out his mouth. Those were racist words. But I don't think that he intentionally weaponized it. Okay, so this is the part that had me heated, and I need y'all to understand why. BAFTA and the BBC knew John Davidson was in that room. They warned the audience before the ceremony started that he had Tourette's and that they might hear strong language. Okay, fine. At least they did that. They apparently did not individually contact the presenters, not Michael B. Jordan, not Delroy Lindo. They were not personally warned backstage that this could happen to them while they were standing on that stage. Not one person. That alone is a failure of duty of care. But wait, it gets worse. The BAFTAs were broadcast on a 2-hour tape delay on the BBC. 2 hours where someone sitting in a production truck could have said, hey, we should probably mute that slur before it airs into millions of homes. 2 hours where someone could have made one executive decision that would have protected these two black men's dignity on a global stage. And what did the BBC do? They aired it. They aired the N-word, unbleeped, unedited, into people's living rooms across the world. And then the BBC later claimed the producers simply didn't hear it because they were working in a truck. How didn't you hear it when literally everybody in the audience gasped at the same time? Michael B. Jordan paused on live television. How did nobody in production catch that? But you know what they did manage to catch and edit out in that same broadcast? A filmmaker named Akinola Davies Jr., who won the BAFTA for Outstanding British Debut for his film My Father's Shadow, gave a beautiful speech dedicating his award to migrants, people living through conflict, those experiencing genocide, and at the end he said, "Free Palestine." The BBC cut that, edited it clean out, gone.
And fallout from the BAFTA awards ceremony in London is growing. That's Britain's equivalent of the Oscars. A BAFTA judge, filmmaker Jonte Richardson, has quit, citing the organization's handling of a racist incident during Sunday's awards ceremony, when Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo presented the award for Best Visual Effects. A Tourette syndrome campaigner shouted the N-word twice. The BBC failed to edit out the word from the broadcast, which aired 2 hours after the live show, while cutting the phrase "Free Palestine" from an acceptance speech by Akinola Davies Jr., a British-Nigerian filmmaker. Jonte Richardson wrote on LinkedIn, quote, "After considerable soul-searching, I feel compelled to withdraw from the BAFTA Emerging Talent Judging Panel."
So let me get this straight. Free Palestine gets the scissors, but the N-word gets a pass? Where's the energy? Where's the same urgency? Because that tells you everything you need to know about whose comfort matters to these institutions. Now let's talk about the reactions, because this is where it got really interesting. First up, Jamie Foxx went on Instagram and he did not hold back. He commented on a post about the incident and said, and I quote, "unacceptable." And then he followed it up with, "nah, he meant that." And then, out of all the words, you could have said Tourette's makes you say that. Now, a lot of people online pushed back on Jamie Foxx because they felt like he was being unfair to someone with a neurological condition. And I understand that perspective. Tourette's is real, coprolalia is real, and the brain does not choose which words to fire off. But I also understand where Jamie's pain is coming from. Because when you're a black man and you hear that word directed at your people on a global stage, the trauma response does not wait for a clinical explanation. That's human, that's real, and both things can be true. Then we have the legendary Wendell Pierce, who went to X and said it was infuriating that the first reaction wasn't complete, and full-throated apologies to Delroy Lindo and Michael B. Jordan. He said the insult to them takes priority. It doesn't matter the reasoning for the racist slur, and that is the part I agree with 100%, because regardless of the source, those two men had to stand there and absorb that in front of their entire industry, their peers, people they respect, and nobody came to check on them in the moment. Journalist Jamel Hill also weighed in perfectly. She said that asking for more grace for the person who shouted a racist slur instead of for Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo, who had to push through being embarrassed in front of their peers, is often the expectation that black people are just supposed to be okay with being disrespected and dehumanized so that other people don't feel bad. And that right there is the entire conversation in one sentence.
It brought up a much larger, broader conversation about how black people are expected to act in the face of it being of indignity and disrespect. And there has been this longstanding narrative that, because I got a lot of this on social media where people were saying, well, you know, he has a disease. They handled it with grace and class. And I wouldn't expect anything else from Michael B. Jordan or Delroy Lindo. But my issue is that that's the expectation for how black people have to handle it, is that we just got to suck it up. We just have to be disrespected to make everybody else feel comfortable and cool so that nobody else feel uncomfortable. Damn our discomfort. Even though we're the ones being disrespected and dehumanized, we got to make them feel comfortable when we are the ones who need the comfort. How does that happen?
And then Sinners production designer Hannah Beachler came forward with something that really made my stomach drop. She is the first Black person to win an Oscar for production design. She did it for Black Panther in 2019, and she revealed that the slur was actually shouted 3 times that night, not once. 3 times, and one of those times it was directed at her, personally, on her way to dinner after the show at a Black woman. She wrote that she could not find the words for what happened, but said she exists above it, while also making clear the situation is almost impossible, and she called out the BAFTA apology at the end of the show as a throwaway, because the host said, "We apologize if you were offended. If, not we apologize that this happened, if you were offended." And what did Delroy Lindo himself say? He spoke to Vanity Fair at the Warner Brothers after party and said that he and Michael did what they had to do and that he wishes someone from BAFTA spoke to them afterwards, not during, not before, after all of that. Not one person from the organization came to check on those 2 men. Not one. Think about that for a second. Now, after the backlash exploded online, BAFTA finally issued a formal apology. They said they apologized unreservedly to Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo, took full responsibility for putting their guests in a very difficult situation, and thanked the 2 men for their incredible dignity and professionalism. They also said they will learn from this. The BBC separately apologized for not editing out the slur before the broadcast. And Warner Brothers, the studio behind Sinners, came out and confirmed that they actually requested the slur be removed from the tape-delayed BBC broadcast immediately after it happened, and were apparently told that message would be passed along. And yet it still aired. So basically, somebody dropped the ball because the words still ended up in the live broadcast. BAFTA apologized and the BBC apologized. Like I always say, the apology means nothing without the system change behind it. And until these spaces are actually built with the protection and dignity of Black artists as a foundation and not an afterthought, we're going to keep having this same conversation. Different year, different award show, same story. So tea sippers, I leave the conversation up to you guys. Let me know what you guys think about this entire situation. How do you feel about John Davidson? Do you feel like his Tourette's is an excuse for what he did? How do you feel about how BAFTA handled the situation? And then how do you feel about what Jamie Foxx, Jamel Hill, Delroy Lindo, and many others had to say about what took place at the BAFTA Awards? I look forward to reading y'all's comments down below. Please make sure you guys hit this video with a like. Feel free to share the video, and most importantly, make sure you're still subscribed to the channel, and I'll talk to y'all later. Deuces.
If you want the latest news in the streets, join us and tune in for the tea. Breaking news with integrity. So tell your friends and your family. It's the Lovelyti TV show, bringing you good tea and good vibes. It's the Lovelyti TV show. Be sure to share, like, and subscribe.